Hey everybody, it's Galmadex, and welcome back to another remix draft of the Artifacts format. Without further ado, let's get into our Pack 1 Pick 1, and this is a really loaded pack. We have Ridge Scale Tusker to put a counter on the whole board. We have Ingenious Smith, an excellent 2-for-1. It's a must-kill threat because it keeps getting a +1/+1 counter every turn, and it pulls out the best artifact from the top 4 cards of your deck. There's also Ovia Pshiri here for a token producer. She potentially makes really big tokens at 5 mana plus. Gear Seeker Serpent is ridiculously cheap when there's so many artifacts running around. All of these are incredible first picks. I think I'm going to go with the rare. You just have less opportunities to play with this card in particular. But I'm honestly not sure it's actually the strongest of those four. They're all very, very close and very strong cards. Pick 2, we don't have any incredible follow-ups to that. So we've got Scrapwork Mutt for a solid little value play, getting your draws to play out a little more consistently. Monstrosity is good if we turn into a food deck here for going green-black, as is Hollow Scavenger. I think if I go down the food direction, we'd rather just take the Scavenger because we can stick to green and don't have to get immediately tied to a 2-color pair. Ravenous Squirrel actually does look pretty nuts, pun intended, for a green-black deck. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact or creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So just using food tokens or using treasure tokens makes it bigger. It actually might be pretty sweet here. I might try the green-black artifact sacrifice deck. Pick 3, what does this Droira do? Oh, she can cast some high mana value artifacts for free eventually. Sure, that doesn't seem that insane. This pack as a whole actually seems pretty dang weak. I think Iron Tread Crusher's pretty bad. Alloy Mirror is some of the slower fixing in the formats. Walking Skyscraper's just really expensive. Blade Master, Secrets, Courage and Crisis. It's a lot of filler here. Maybe we do take the Joyra, but it's a completely different direction from these first two, and I don't even think she's that powerful. I guess I could just take Blood Fountain. It's a fine value play in black, and it does give us an expendable artifact to sacrifice. We can just sack the blood token to its own effect, or we can sack it to the Ravenous Squirrel to draw a card. Pick number 4, we've got Ashnod's Harvester. This looks pretty good for us. It can unearth and we can sacrifice it again later for value. Metalwork Colossus is a lot of fun, but you do want to have a lot of non-creature artifacts to make it cheaper. So it's particularly good in like red-white, where you have a lot of equipment that can sit around and be high mana value. I don't think green and black have a lot of non-creature artifacts, so I don't think it's going to work for us here. It's a very fun build around. I'm just going to go for the Ashnod's Harvester, stick to what we're doing, and sacrifice this thing twice to our Ravenous Squirrel. Pick 5. Gaia's Gift is fine when you've got a really big threat to protect. Smelter's really fun with clue tokens and treasure tokens and stuff. Hard Evidence is a pretty good way to get a clue token real cheap. I think these 3 are the best cards in the pack, and with the cards we've taken, that leaves us with Gaia's Gift. Pick 6. Alright, I probably shouldn't be married to black yet, because we are still just in pack 1, and Captured by Lagax is the strongest removal spell in the format. It's shutting off a creature from attacking and blocking, and putting 2 extra power toughness on your board, so it's a very powerful card. It could be a big reason to push for specifically green-white as the direction to go. Pick 7, we can get another Hollow Scavenger here. That is fine. Synergizes well with our Ravenous Squirrel. Well, another one. I guess this is technically our first one. Pick 8, Ornithopter of Paradise is solid for anything that isn't super aggressive. The mana fixing and mana ramp is nice, and it fits into any deck. Alternatively, the Byway Courier dying and turning into a clue token is nice. Make it a 2-for-1 every time. But I'll take the Ornithopter. It's a little more flexible. Pick 9, Cutthroat Centurion's kind of cute for green-black, but I'd rather get stuff that has permanent buffs when we're sacrificing things like the Ravenous Squirrel does, so I'll just take the Byway Courier. Plus, at this point, with a Captured by Lagax in the deck, we want to be open to pivoting to green-white, so I'm not going to take a black spell unless it's very strong, and I don't consider the Centurion to be very strong. It would have to be quite a bit stronger than the best green card in the pack to get me super interested. Because we can play the Squirrel even if we can't use its sacrifice ability. because when we're naturally sacrificing our artifacts and creatures, we're still getting the counters on this. Alright. These last couple black cards I don't think are particularly good, so those are definitely... well, we're definitely still open to being green-white. Pack 2, pick 1, we kind of have to just take Cityscape Leveler. 8 mana is a lot, and this can be a pretty aggressive format. A lot of the red and the white decks are super aggro, even like red-blue. You can play like 2 mana 5/6s sometimes. You can play 0 mana 4/4s, so that's the one downside of this. 8 mana is a huge drawback, but if we make it to 8 mana, we blow up whatever we want, and then every time it attacks, we blow up whatever we want again. Even if they kill this, we can unearth it, attack with it, and blow up one of their cards. I'm going to take the Cityscape Leveler, but we got to put in some work to getting the ramp to get there. Currently, we just have the one Ornithopter Paradise, so we've got a decent start. But we definitely want some more. Pack 2, pick 2. Woodland Champion. Actually seems kind of sweet in this format. If we get a blood token, a clue token, a treasure token, we're getting +1/+1 counters on this. Fatal Push is very efficient removal. And I know Vault Scourge is very sweet in this format. It's great with equipment. It's great with +1/+1 counters. Just great in general. These three all seem incredible. I think I'm going to go for the Vault Scourge. I think green has some pretty great ways to beef things up. And beefing up a Flying Lifelinker is a huge win condition, making it like impossible for your opponent to outrace you. Pick 3. Once again, I don't think Foundry Screecher and Fenhauler or Blood Fountain, none of our black spells really are reasons to push black. Vault Scourge is a colorless spell. So, I kind of like the Hexgold Hoverwings here. I guess it's really at its best in red-white, because we're not going to have a lot of equipment in this archetype. It is 3 mana to move it around. It's not the best equipment to put on a Vault Scourge, because it's 3 mana and only gives it +1. You know what? Never mind. I'll still go for the Trail of Crumbs here. This is great for a food deck. Can draw you a lot of cards if your deck is almost all permanents. Then it'll basically always draw you a card when you're sacking a food. Pick 4, a second Captured by Lagax looks awesome, and that would be a reason to just commit to green-white at this point, and I'm fine with that, because we're really just green guaranteed right now. Yeah, let's go green-white, take another Captured by Lagax. This is a very good pack. Scrapwork Cohort for a wide board, Ornithopter Paradise to ramp into Leveler, Candy Grapple for cheap removal, Contagious Vorak can pick up a land or proliferate. Wild stuff. Another Vault Scourge looks awesome with double Captured by Lagax. That's really good with the Vault Scourge, get a counter on that thing. Weirding Wood to ramp into Leveler is cool too. But maybe we can just gain enough life off of Vault Scourges to just sit there and wait until we draw 8 lands. Who knows? Pick 6. Pretty mediocre stuff. Bloom Hulk could be pretty good if we manage to get some counters on the board before we play it. Epic Confrontation. I don't think our creatures are generally big enough for this to be particularly good. So I'll take the Bloom Hulk. Another Epic Confrontation, pick 7, but with the Leveler here, I'd rather have another Ornithopter Paradise, I think. Pick 8. Alright, well, might take our first Epic Confrontation. We could take Wanderer Strike, though. 2 copies of Captured by Lagax to work with it for the Proliferate. It's definitely more expensive, but we don't need a creature on board to cast it, and we have 2 pieces of mana ramp to get to that 5 mana removal. I'll go for the Wanderer's Strike here. Pick 9, we can take another Ashnod's Harvester, mainly just a 2 mana 3/1, but we can unearth it off of our Ornithopters, or, because we're not really good at getting a wide board state and we don't care about on the job, we could get it back with Dark Moss Bridge for a splash. Pick 11. Let's grab a Servant of the Scale for a little bit more to proliferate with, plus moving its +1/+1 counters onto Vault Scourge seems good. Yeah. Pick 12, Vorak, let's go. We're definitely happy to be green. It's one of green's best commons. Oh boy, are we happy to be green. We open up Verdurous Gearhulk. Can you imagine playing this turn 5, putting 4 +1/+1 counters on a Vault Scourge and immediately hitting for 5 in the sky, gaining 5? I can, and I like it. Pick 2 now. Tough Cookie's pretty nice. With some food tokens sitting around, we turn them into 4/4s. Yeah, I was going to say Drown on Ichor is pretty good as well, but if it's going to be off the splash, which it would be here, since we're like green-white a little bit more, I think it's weaker than the Tough Cookie. Arcbound Mouser is really good with the Vault Scourge too, though. I don't think either of these will come back around, which is a bummer, but maybe we'll get the Servant of the Scale back. I'm going to go ahead and take the Tough Cookie here. Hack 3, pick 3, another Contagious Vorax seems decent. Another Dark Moss Bridge seems decent. Wander Strike may be a little expensive, though. We've got 3 removal spells now. I'll take another Vorak. Although we got one like pick 11 or something. I just don't think I want anything else in this pack. I think I would end up cutting Confrontation or a second Wanderer's Strike. Pick 4. Yeah, we're not really the all-in food deck. Second Trail of Crumbs would be fine, but I actually kind of like moving towards the all-in Vault Scourge deck. Vault Scourge captured by Lagax combo and just loading up on Servant of the Scales here. I don't know, Trail of Crumbs is better for playing the late game and getting to like a Cityscape leveler, but now we have a Gear Hulk towards just quick finishers as well. I'm going to go for the Vorak, actually. Let's get triple Vorak for the Proliferate, and then we'll wheel all of the Servant of the Scales, because they've been going pretty late generally. Oh my god. Now, Welcome to Sweet Tooth is another card that's super busted on Vault Scourge. Get some food tokens and put a ton of +1/+1 counters on your Vault Scourge, at least 2 from this card alone. If you have more food, you go even crazier. Vault Scourge number 3 is absolutely perfect. Now an Arcbound prototype is perfect with 3 copies of Vault Scourge. When it dies, we put 2 counters onto one of them. This is just Vault Scourge the deck. We're throwing +1/+1 counters on Vault Scourges to the point where another Gaia's Gift actually seems sweet, protect it, and permanently buff it. I think we're probably going to cut the Ornithopters and the Cityscape leveler and just be pure Vault Scourge aggro at this point. Just go quick with it. This is 25 non-land cards right now. We probably want to be a 16 land deck, so we'll go 24 non-land. So I think we're likely cutting one of the Harvesters, since we do have some food tokens that are triggering the Squirrel when we sack them for any reason. Still think just 2 +1/+1 counters from Courage and Crisis is pretty bad, but if any deck would ever want it, it would be the triple Scourge combo. I'm going to start in the sideboard here, and I'm going to cut 1 Harvester, so we've got 24 non-lands, and this is our deck. Just build it as we go. Another Servant of the Scale? Alright, so we cut another card for that for sure. Cut another Harvester. Maybe the Byway Courier, actually. A little slower, or Trail of Crumbs even. Slower, but it's really good. I'm going to cut the Courier, keep the Trail of Crumbs. Another Dark Moss Bridge. I don't want too many tap lands. Epic Confrontation could end up being okay once the Scourges are bigger. It's like gain life plus player removal. But I think it's a little more narrow than what we have in here right now. I think we've just got a full streamlined deck right now. Cut 1 land and be super happy with this. Really aggressive Vault Scourge build. 17 creatures, 7 non-creatures. Oh, the Vault Scourges. I was going to say, what do you mean 4 black spells? Yeah, 4 black spells that don't need black mana. So we have 4 white cards, 18 green. The only cards that need white mana are the Wanderer Strike, Double Captured, and the Prototype. So 9-7 split seems fine to me. And we will call it a deck here. Alright, here we have a look at the final deck list for today, and we are an all-in Vault Scourge deck. We're trying to load this thing up with counters and make it impossible for our opponent to outrace us by just having a gigantic amount of lifelinking damage, constantly hitting them in the sky. We can clear out some of their creatures and put +1/+1 counters on the board with Captured by Lagax. We can make more creatures of our own while buffing our stuff up with Welcome to Sweet Tooth. We can trade off Servant of the Scales and move those counters to the Vault Scourge. We can trade off Arcbound Prototype, move those counters to the Vault Scourge. We can cast a Gear Hulk and throw a bunch of counters on a Vault Scourge. this card is going to be an MVP, an absolutely massive card. So we're even running some combat tricks that are here just to protect it. Couple Gaia's Gift to give it hexproof and indestructible and a +1/+1 counter to make sure that we keep those around. That is really the whole deck. It's all about the Vault Scourgers, but whenever we don't hit them, we can still curve out with other creatures and load those up with counters, do a little bit of proliferating with Bloom Hulk and some Vorax and stuff, try to beat down with regular damage, but really, we're hoping to hit some Vault Scourgers and make them absolutely massive. So we'll see how it all plays out for us as we head into the gameplay. Here we are on the play for game one, and we have the dream hand, pretty much. I mean, I'm sure there's tons of dream hands for this deck, but this is getting started doing exactly what we want to do, which is load up the Vault Scourge with counters. We just gotta hope they don't have cheap removal for Vault Scourge. We have the Gaia's Gift, but I can't afford to just hold it up every turn for the rest of the game and never cast anything. So we need to Welcome to Sweet Tooth first so that we're threatening to get the counters on the Vault Scourge. Then I could hold up Gaia's Gift, but I think I'd still rather play some more cards here. Ooh, okay, so the 2/1 Justiciar. Wow, alright, never mind. I was going to say the 2/1 Justiciar from our opponent is actually pretty good here, because our 1/1's not going to block that and trade into it, because it gets +1/+1 when they play artifacts. So they can lifelink us right back, but now I have the Arcbound prototype. So if they don't play 2 artifacts this turn, we trade into the Justiciar and make our Vault Scourge insane. So their attacks are really bad if they don't double buff the Justiciar, in which case they're still not very good, but they are fine. If they double buff it, we can double block and put counters on Vault Scourge. Alright, well here we are. Boom! 4/4 Vault Scourge, so I can hold up the Gaia's Gift for the rest of the game if I don't cast anything this turn. Alternatively, I can play the Bloom Hulk Proliferate on both of these. I don't... Bloom Hulk is so big, it's so much stats on this board, but I don't see how we can possibly lose if I just make sure they can't kill the Vault Scourge. So it's really tempting either way. I'm just going to roll out with the Bloom Hulk. If they kill the Vault Scourge, it's going to be a bummer. But the stats here are just incredible. I'm going to just run into a crab with the 1/1. If they kill the Vault Scourge, bummer, but that probably taps out most of their mana, and then we still have a really beefy board from what we just did, and they can't kill the Vault Scourge. All right. So this played out perfectly where they didn't have the removal this turn, and if I hit a land, perfect. Then I get to keep casting spells and just hold up the Gaia's Gift for the rest of the game. There we go. All right, we put the shields down for 1 turn. There was a risk to it, but it paid off, and now shields are up. And our opponent's going to need to get like an insane amount of lifelink to win. Even if they board wipe, then we can just get indestructible here. All right, the stun is annoying enough to stop when they're at 8. So I hit them for 6 in the sky here. Okay, Ravenous Squirrel's kind of sweet with 2 food tokens on the board. So we put them to 2. I think if they had hard removal for Vault Scourge, they would have cast it, so they still need to top deck removal, but they have a clue token to dig. Veil of Assimilation for Vigilance on the lifelinker could be helpful, but it's not going to be enough life if they don't interact with Vault Scourge. Vigilance on the Serpent? Sure. Filigree Attendant? Okay. Flying Chump Blocker. So they get another turn. Send in just the Serpent here. We're at 36. I think we just take it. When our opponent's at 2 and going wide could be a big deal. I like having food for Scavenger, but I only need 1. I can only use 1 per turn, so I'm going to buff the squirrel up here. so that it is lethal damage if it gets through. So they can block 4 of our ground troops, so block, 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 chump the flyer, take 1, but they gain 2. Yeah, it's just not worth it. Just kill the filigree attendant. Glorifier of Suffering for some +1/+1 counters on board. That can sack Ichor Wellspring, so they have 2 top decks here to try to get there. Draw 1 off of the Wellspring and 1 off of the Clue. Chrome Courier's a chump blocker. There you go. Top 2's a Thraben Inspector and a Sky Swimmer. Thraben Inspector gives them another draw, as did the Chrome Courier. Our opponent is top decking well, not perfectly where they've killed the Vault Scourge, but well enough to now, to being at the point where if they kill it now, they are in the winning position. So if they just top deck removal, they've drawn so many cards that their board state outside of the Vault Scourge is the winning board state. From here, Erdwall Illuminator. Wow, and then they hit the Illuminator for the double investigate off the Inspector. Okay. Not only is it the double investigate off the Spectre, but it blocks the Vault Scourge. We've got at least 4 lethal cards in this deck, because we have 3 removal spells and another's Gaia's Gift. So we've got a lot of really solid cards we could draw as well. At least like 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 in here would be insta-lethal. Okay, probably not this turn, when they load up the Justiciar. I guess it still will be insta-lethal. If we buff up the Arcbound prototype here onto the Vault Scourge. Yeah, sure. We'll get rid of their lifelink and make Vault Scourge insta-lethal if we top deck any of our removal or trample tricks or anything like that. And we've got another draw step to get there because we can draw off the Ravenous Squirrel, sacking the food. We got 2 draws to hit one of our like 5, 6 lethal cards. That's definitely not it. That is also not it. I mean, proliferate again and be at 1,000,000 life, I guess. Well, there's one of our lethal cards captured by Legax going to the bottom now. Well, I mean, even if we lose, our deck idea is doing its thing. 10-10 Vault Scourge at this point. They've got 2 top decks this turn, 1 natural, 1 from the Clue. If they don't find a flyer or a removal spell, they are still dead, as has been the case for the past several turns. There's the flyer, Sky Swimmer Koi, for the chump. And that does more digging if they have any more artifacts to put on board. But that doesn't look to be the case. Okay, there's an alternate win condition right there. We take those. Now we can try to slowly grind out the long game, even if we don't get the Vault Scourge kill. I will try to dig towards the Vault Scourge kill first. And there it is. We found one of the removal spells. Alright, much longer game than we were hoping for. Was definitely getting nervous there. Having blown the Gaia's Gift early and then not having any backups there to protect the Vault Scourge. Because our opponent did a lot of digging, a lot of card draw, but still could not find the removal in the end, luckily enough. So we'll start things off 1-0. Alright. Another perfect hand. Basically just want a Vault Scourge in the opener and that's it. The rest of our deck is a lot of cards that synergize with Vault Scourge. So it's hard for an opening hand with Vault Scourge not to have some kind of synergies to make the card pop off. Our opponent's got the turn 1 Bone Splitter. If they have their own Vault Scourge Bone Splitter is a nasty combo. Uh-oh, they're a red deck. So them being a red deck means they could have cheap ways to maybe try to kill the Vault Scourge, but now that I hit a Tough Cookie, it is hard to justify holding up Gaia's Gift instead of playing Tough Cookie when it means another Welcome to Sweet Tooth counter, and even if Vault Scourge dies, it's going to be a really nasty board state alongside the Welcome to Sweet Tooth combo there. Ooh, that's not removal. Let's go. No Welding Sparks, no Voltage Surge. We take those. We also take those 5 damage swings because we're about to gain like 5 a turn. Oh my god, Captured by Legax is so sick. Oh, that's so sick. We get to play that before we play Contagious Vorak here. I don't hold up the Gaia's Gift, but I can't cast anything holding up Gaia's Gift anyway. So, ideally we hold up Gaia's Gift when we have 4 mana to go Harvester plus Gaia's Gift. But this just shut off their only blocker, and now the entire board gets proliferated when we play Vorak. Seems disgusting. There's their own Vorak. They have nothing to proliferate, so they will take the land. Okay, there's the land we need to go Harvester plus Gaia's Gift. So now we know we have the Gaia's Gift. So nothing happens to Vault Scourge and we kill them in 2 swings. It's the Metamorph. They're going to make a copy of our Vault Scourge. That doesn't target. It just enters as a copy of any artifact or creature. So Hexproof doesn't stop that from being able to chump here. I could try to trample over for lethal. Which only works poorly for me if they respond with instant speed removal that costs 2 or less that could kill this. It's possible if they play really, really tight here around a Gaia's Gift and they have the 5 damage removal and they just didn't want to do it. Oh, it's their own Gaia's Gift? They gain 2, they're at 3. We trample over. Yeah, okay, we killed them. Alright. Well, they tapped out, so we know that this is the kill with trample. I was wondering, I was like, wait, those are weird numbers. Why does it say 1? It should be 2 to the Scourge, 4 to them. I don't know. Auto damage worked out perfectly fine. And we are now 2-0 heading into game 3. Well, starting with a 6-card hand here for game 3, and there's no Vault Scourge in it. But Harvester into some Voraks just for card draw is pretty good to get out of the mulligan here. Yeah, make up for the card disadvantage by drawing extra lands off these, which we will need because we need to make it to 5 mana. Unless I top deck a basic every turn, but that's not that likely. Well, we did top deck 1 basic. Hopefully it stops there because we have enough Voraks to draw 2 more off of Voraks. So if our draw steps are hitting our non-creatures and our Voraks are hitting our lands, then that is beautiful. And that is the case this turn. We hit a Gaia's Gift. Oops. I'm gonna let combat damage happen first. We hit a Gaia's Gift off of the draw, and now Vorak will hit the land. Patchwork Automaton, just a 1/1 for now, but that can get a lot bigger later. Unfortunately, we did naturally top deck another land. Now let's send in I don't think they want to trade here, but if they do, I will Gaia's Gift instead of Vorak. And then because I already have 5 mana, that means I can just play the Vorak and proliferate next turn now. So I don't need to draw more lands off of it, since I did naturally top deck 1, sadly. Perilous Mirror. It's worth the exile, because if I don't exile it, it will kill one of my creatures, but if I do, it won't. So they're down to 3. They need to be able to block both of these or kill both of these or they're dead. And they can't. They are just stuck on mana. Really unlucky game for our opponent there, but we'll take it. Another victory means we are undefeated and 3-0 real quick with this deck. At least a 50-50 run no matter what. All right. Here we are for game number 4 now. We've got excellent mana. It's a little bit too many lands. I don't love the 4-lander on the draw. But Prototype and Dvorak, Proliferate on Prototype's pretty good. Doesn't have the turn on Vault Scourge, it's also a little sad, but I think it's a keep here. I think it's almost a mulligan just for the amount of mana it has. But it's on that borderline. All right, Ashnod's Harvester. Well, Scrap Heap Scrounger, so we're going to be attacking past each other. No blocking for a while. I'm just going to Prototype so I can Prototype into Vorak. The argument for Harvester first would be that then I know I can have an artifact creature on board when Prototype dies. Ooh, okay, Weaponcraft Enthusiast. It's a 2/3 or it's a 0/1 and 2 1/1s, which in this format is basically always a 0/1 and 2 1/1s. Get that Vorak Proliferate. Send in a 3/3, because I could not send it in as a 2/2 against these 1/1s. Our Harvester is also really bad against these 1/1s. Ooh, Bone Splitter, that's a lot of damage. Fenhauler improvised out. 5/5, what can it not be blocked by? Can be blocked by artifact creatures, so we can double block with 2 Voraks and kill it. Sure, that seems pretty good. We'll set that up. Get a double Proliferate here off the top deck, Servant of the Scale. We can't attack into the 5/5 though, so maybe even just holding the Fenhauler off as a blocker is good for our opponent. It definitely is, but we don't know if that's what they want to do with it. They might want to trade it into 2 Voraks. Or actually 1 Vorak and a Servant now. That's not bad. Could also Wanderer Strike it next turn. There's a lot of ways to deal with it. If I do want to Wanderer Strike it next turn, though, I'm taking a lot of damage here. Unless I chomp with a single Servant. I'll still be at 10. 10 is not that bad, especially in a deck with Vault Scourges we could hit, and we have the Black Source for them. We wouldn't even have to pay the life. Yeah, I'm going to take it. Ooh, Sweet Tooth Witch is very threatening. Once we get to the single-digit life totals, and we're basically there now because of the Witch, they can throw food at us for 2 life apiece. I'll do my thing, so I would probably Wander Strike the Fenhauler. Well, here it is. I keep being tempted to play Ashnod's Harvester because I keep getting nervous about this Prototype dying before I can move its counters. You have to exile another creature from their grave for that, right? Yeah. That probably takes a little while to come back. And obviously, if we can get an attack with Ashnod's Harvester, we can just stop it, which is great. Double block Arcbound prototype with Sweet Tooth Witch and a 3/1. Then they have a Sweet Tooth Witch engraved to bring back the Scrounger. I think I can skip out on the attack here till we find just like one extra thing. One more proliferate, like a Bloomhulk or a Vorak would do it. Any of our removal would do it. Like another Captured by Legax. Got a couple of those. One of our Gaia's gifts. I think we just need like almost any non-creature spell here to tip the scales and want to start attacking. Alright, opponent passes through, we hit another land. Which means we pass through as well. Centurion? Ooh, Centurion's pretty nutty here. Basically a 4/4. Alright, there is the one more proliferate I was looking for. I guess even one more proliferate does just mean prototype still trades into Witch Bone Splitter. But then Servant's bigger, so we have a 4/4 blocker against all the 3-power creatures, and it's probably worth it. Probably is good enough here. Well. Run their Arcbound prototype, and then get in their Harvester from then on. With plenty of blocks set up, with all the Voraks and the Servant. Yep, this was the expected block. We load up the Harvester. I guess I could have always, like, just Trump attacked with Harvester where it trades down into a 1/1 servo just to exile their Scrounger. But then we wouldn't have an artifact creature to put all our stuff on with prototype anymore. Which, considering Harvester becomes a 9/7, would probably not be worth it. Although they are a black deck, they could just have a straight up bake into a pie or something. They destroy any size creature. Salivating Gremlins, that's a threatening amount of damage when they play some artifacts. Like if they play a Weaponcraft Enthusiast that makes 2 servos, 6 power with trample. Not a good draw. Oh. Their board state threatening enough that I just can't attack with Harvester because of the crackbacks. They send in 3/3/4. 6/10. I've got the 3 blockers though. I don't think it is. I mean, we still die to them like playing any kind of active treason effect, but that's gonna stay true whether or not we attack. Because if they take our Harvester, they can sack it to Centurion, which is still gonna be game ending. It's gonna be backbreaking regardless. It's just now, if they have something where they steal one of our creatures till end of turn, we're probably literally dead on board. But we're definitely not dead to, like, a removal spell. We might be dead to instant speed removal, top deck another removal spell. So we'd have 1 blocker up. We block that, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nope, we're not even dead to 2 removal spells. Unless they have another way to get extra damage alongside them, like it's removal plus put a +1/+1 counter on the board. You. Witch's Vanity. They choose not to kill the Harvester, which is interesting. I'm definitely not putting more counters on the Harvester. Must mean they're trying to hit us for lethal here. Oh, they just want an Essence Extraction in response to the Servant? Okay, well, we're not dead. But they will get a food next turn to try to survive. Yeah, we're not dead, but their attacks are pretty dang good. We have to just trade into something that's not a good trade. If I block Centurion, I'm trading into a 0-1 Weaponcraft Enthusiast. If I block the Servo, I'm trading into a 1-1 Servo with a Bone Splitter on it. I guess I block the Scrounger. They don't have a creature in grave right now, and I can exile the Scrounger on an attack if I get one in. Hit for 7? Sure. That is the one block we can't do, is block Centurion, basically. Ovia Bashiri. Alright, well, we are dead then. I think we just missed on a lot of draw steps here in the war, sadly. And that's all we can do. It is going to be our first loss now at 3-1, heading into round number 5. Vault Scourge in a Dream. You absolutely roll out here. Actually, no ways to put counters on the Vault Scourge in the opener. I mean, the Servant, if we can get a chump block, but no consistent ways to do counter things here. But it is still an absolute slam dunk insta-keep. And then we top deck Welcome to Sweet Tooth, because you never didn't have it. If we top deck a land by turn 3, which we have 2 more draw steps to do, this Vault Scourge is going to be nuts. Because we're going to have Welcome to Sweet Tooth, and we're going to get a food from Tough Cookie and Bakery Raid. It's just a million counters on Vault Scourge. Take 2 from Obsessive Skinner. Is the green-white mirror match. They could have the best removal spell in the format, the Captured by Lagax here, to put on the Vault Scourge, and that would be devastating. Probably would be game-winning, because we only have the 1 Vault Scourge. But if they don't kill the Vault Scourge, then we do win real quick. No! Oh, that's actually even worse than Captured by Lagax would be. That is disgustingly good. Get bomb rared. Captured by Lagax is removal and you get 2 +1/+1 counters. Wicked Wolf is removal and you get a full-on 3/3. You get more power toughness out of it and you get a whole nother creature. So that is very sad. But we still have a 6/6 because we got so much food. So that's still kind of nutty. We are probably still racing then. Got a 3/3 to trade on blocks here. We make this thing a 7/7 on the swing. Got a 2/2 that dies and moves its counters around. White Source might be good enough to grab instead of proliferating. Because of the Wanderer strike in hand. Yeah, it's a slight bummer, but I think it is better. Obviously, if we didn't hit the White Source, it would just be like, boom, board's bigger, proliferate. We're cool with it. But the White Source is important. Alright, another removal spell from our opponent, and that is probably enough. I don't know why I said opponent like that. No attacks. Let's play a Hollow Scavenger. Even if we Wanderer's Strike, we're not getting in that well right now. I just send in a Vorak. Veil of Assimilation. Get some vigilant attacks in here. Pretty fine. That's frustrating. Well, gain the life. Take 7 here, kill the permanent 4/4. And flood out a little. If I do Wanderer's Strike, they're down to 1 creature. And on board we win that race. I would rather Wander Strike the Obsessive Skinner, because they could theoretically get Delirium on that card. They need an instant and an artifact engrave. But I get bigger attacks if I just strike the wolf here. I'm gonna strike the wolf. It's possible they draw into things that are relevant for the wolf as well. They might draw into food token stuff, and then it would have been worse to have exiled the one that doesn't care about the food. They had more action in hand and hit something good off the top. Man. Well, we've got some breathing room with all the food tokens. Well, I don't think they top-decked a land if they sat that long there. Well, that's a bummer. Still got pretty close here. Life totals are 6 to 7. We're 1 creature down. Just hit considerably less spells in the endgame, sadly. I mean, there are still some cards that are so good in our deck they could single-handedly flip things around. Vault Scourge is not quite one of them. Well, maybe it is. Chump and put the counters on the Scourge. Maybe it is. I was going to say, like, the Verdur's Gearhulk Mythic that we have not drawn yet. If this is the first game to draw that card, that would be beautiful. Oh, that triggers on enter the battlefield and death. Yeah, buff the Skinner. That is super bad. Well, we've got 1 turn to top deck Verdur's Gearhulk now, and if we top deck it, we win. If we don't, we lose. I think that is the only draw left. Captured by Legax might be enough because of the life gain. Probably not. Verdur's Gearhulk's the only thing that is straight up we lethal them. Hold on, I forgot about this card. We are going to be at 8 life. It's not going to be enough if it doesn't hit a permanent, but it's always going to hit a permanent. It just needs to be a non-land permanent. We've drawn a lot of lands, so there should be a decent amount, a decent chance of hitting something non-land in the top 2. Okay, Servant of the Scale is enough on board to chump the 4/4 take 5 and be at 3 life. Hold the phone. The land clump may be over. If they are on their own land clump, we chump block, then kill them with 4 damage in the sky. That's certainly not a land, but it's not enough to kill us. And that obsessive Skinner. Which means if they declare an attack, then they die on the crackback. So they don't declare an attack, and Contagious Vorak for the proliferate off the top. Counted my chickens before they hatched. I wrote the game off as a defeat because we had 0 spells. Just draw a card, play land, draw a card, play land, draw a card, play land. Slowly dying, but because we hit that big land chunk, that meant that we would hit a big non-land chunk in the very end, right on time, just barely on time. 1 turn later, we were mega dead. So, insanely close game of Magic there. But we do narrowly find the victory to be 4-1 heading into round 6. Here we are for round 6. We don't have the turn 1 Vault Scourge, which is a pretty big bummer. Actually, no creatures till turn 3. And Vorak and Bloomhulk with nothing to proliferate on. I mean, the hand has good cards. I don't feel like we should generally mulligan, but maybe we're such a combo deck that we mull towards the Scourge. We could always just top deck a Scourge or something here. We are on the draw. Yeah, no, I'm just going to keep this on the draw. We've got like 5 1-mana cards, 5 2-mana creatures. We have Ovira, Double Servant, Ravenous Squirrel, Vaults, Triple Vault Scourge. So you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 1-mana creatures we could draw into. And then we have, I guess, only 1, 2, 3, 4 2-mana creatures. So there's 11 cards in our deck that we could have drawn into off the first 2 draws to get an actual creature on board. But we did not, sadly. Did draw into our big mythic. We actually get to play that this game, but we're playing it after we play everything that proliferates, which is awkward. Here I am, playing a 1-drop on turn 3, because I want to get proliferate value. And also the Steel Seeker is very good, so if I could kill that, that'd be sick. They have their own trick, then they save it, but if I can kill Steel Seeker, I'm absolutely going to. Alright, so they save it, but this means they're not playing another creature this turn, at least not a 4-drop. Yeah, so that was fine. There's the Vault Scourge. I'm gonna Vault Scourge Vorak instead of Bloomhulk to have a wide enough board state so when I play the Gear Hulk, I put a counter on everybody. And also, Vorak can guarantee the land for Gear Hulk instead of proliferating on the servants. I think it's just a little bit better to make sure we're playing our incredible card next turn than it is to get a single counter on Servant to the Scale. Hamlet Glutton, that's pretty big. Gear Hulk's a little bigger. Ooh, we get to play Servant to the Scale, Bloomhulk in the same turn next turn. Go. Let's make sure everybody has a counter on them. 2 on Vault Scourge, though. And we're going to take some big hits from Glutton, but that would mean they don't have good blockers up anymore, and definitely outrace. Yeah, they're doing some good stuff, but I think Servant Bloomhulk's just going to be even better. No attacks, dang. I really wish they would have attacked there. Sadly, they do not. Boom! Super big mega fun time for us, but not for our opponent. I'm trading a Glutton here. It's honestly probably fine to send a Servant to the Scale in. It's definitely not fine to send the Vorak in, though. Because then they'll just block Vorak with the Glutton and put other stuff in front of the Gear Hulk or just take the Gear Hulk damage. Well, now we can send the 5/5 in. Steel Seeker continues to do incredible value things, surveilling everything they don't need away, digging all the lands out of the way as well. Wish this were a clue instead of a food, but what can you do? Is Geronimo a bad idea? Probably. Not gonna go full Geronimo. We'll hold a 2/2 back. I wanted to yell it out. Geronimo! Just hop in. But no, they have multiple 3 toughness creatures, so send it everything with 3 or more power. It's a decent block. That's a decent block. And that is fine as well. This is all fine. Basically everything's gonna die. You choose which one of these dies. 3/3 and a 2/3 are basically just as annoying. So I'm gonna go for the card with the better ability at this point in the game. Kill that one. Feel like I should buff up the Servant with the Servant, because then if they removal spell Vault Scourge, I still have a bunch of counters sitting around that I can move later. Spread out our threats a little bit instead of putting them all into one basket. This also prevents basically any attacks on the ground. Okay, that worked very well, because their top deck is incredible. Cleanup Crew, we drafted that in our very first deck in the format. One of my favorite uncommons. Everyone has really important artifacts to kill, so it's just a 6 mana 6/6 and a removal spell all in one card. It plays absurdly well. Plays so well, in fact, that it has completely flipped this game on its head, and we're now really far behind. Our opponent is massively in the lead. And I would have been saying the exact opposite if we still had a Vault Scourge. If all we lost was the Vault Scourge and they didn't get a 6/6 out of the deal, I would have still been like, well, we're a little behind now. But we've got some time to draw stuff. But kill the Vault Scourge and have the biggest threat on the board, and it's like, alright, well then. Guess I'll die. I might want to cut to like 15 lands with how some of these games have been playing out. We do have like 3 Contagious Vorax, so if we make it to 3 mana, we can help dig for the 4th, 5th land. But there's been a lot of flooding going on. So I think the whole Contagious Vorak land draw option means that we could have more breathing room to cut some lands. It does mean we could get openers, though, where we have like a 2-lander and then don't hit the 3rd and then we're dead in the water. Alright, GG. But I think it'd be worth it. Now that we looked at the numbers again in that game, and we saw that we have like 7 1-mana cards in here, like, yeah. If we just have 1 land to start things off, we're doing great. Yeah, whatever. We'll throw in the Courage and Crisis, get more proliferate. Cut a land for it. Go for the 15 land build here. We are now 4-2 as we head into round number 7, hoping to win a few more games. I think this is a really sweet deck, and we have 7-win with more of our decks than we haven't. I would like to add this to the sweet deck of 7-win pile. If I could swap this out and say that this deck got a 7-win run and cut one of the other 7-win decks out of there, I would. I would, but that's not an option. We got to go in here. We got to actually win these games to add it to the trophy list. All right, here we are on the play for game 7. Really sweet start. Servant into Welcome to Sweet Tooth with the Hollow Scavenger to get another food token off of that. So we can just have a really big servant to the scale, and if it ever dies, we make a really big human token. The Captured by Lagax is an excellent way to clear a blocker out of the way while buffing up our board, so that'll be really nice later as well. Playing against Boros here, there's the Scrapwork Mutt. Discard a card, draw a card. Solid little cheap value play. Alright, we drew a servant to the scale, so we have something to do this turn other than make a food. We can also put a creature down. But I'm definitely not going to capture the Scrapwork Mutt this turn. I'd be perfectly open to capturing it later. I want to have as many food tokens on board before Chapter 3 of Welcome to Sweet Tooth happens, though. Get as many +1/+1 counters onto one of the servants as possible. This is a little awkward. Pass the turn means they're just going to respond to wherever I put the counters with burn, which means they're going to get me either way, whether I put it on a servant or put it on a human. So that's a little annoying, but can't do anything about that. I'm going to capture here or just scavenger? I'm just going to scavenger. Skip out on attack this turn. Usually Servant of the Scale for Scrapwork Mutt would really not be a bad trade at all. But because I have a way to get another counter onto it to then move all those counters again later, I do think that trade's actually kind of bad. Alright, so let's capture it first so we can have another permanent with counters on it before we proliferate with Bloomhulk. In fact, since I drew into Bloomhulk, I might actually want to put a counter on this human instead of the servant. Because I'll get another counter on the servant anyway next turn. Does mean I hit for 1 less point of damage this turn. No, 3 less points of damage. Because it wouldn't be like putting a counter on the servant but not the Hollow Scavenger. It would be put a counter on Scavenger, put a counter on Servant. So it would still be 4 with Scavenger, but then another 3 with Servant if we did it the other way. You exile the servant. Why you gotta be so rude? Well, still got the bigger board state. We just gotta hope their last 2 cards in hand aren't great. They do have double Mutt to unearth to do some more digging. But the amount of damage the Mutts are going to do to us doesn't matter. It's just that they can chump block and dig for removal. Or dig for bigger threats. That is the worrisome part. The worrisome part is, what if they draw into some kind of bomb? It's the main thing they can do to get out of this. Is dig for something good. More than enough life to just take this damage, rather than put Bloomhulk at extra risk of dying to a combat trick, like the +2/+0 to everybody draw a card. Ooh, well, did already say the big risk here is that they can draw into some good stuff. Visions of Phyrexia is a great start to die on board to Captured by Lagax. And we're on to game number 8. 5-2. The Visions of Phyrexia is a sweet card draw engine over the course of a long game, but Sometimes you just instantly top deck removal and you don't have to worry about it. I forgot that we're a Vault Scourge deck, because it's been a couple games since we turned one Vault Scourge, but here we are. We're back at it again. Vault Scourge into Arcbound prototype. Definitely a keep. We are on the draw here, so we'll have some time to try to hit these lands to get to our 3 and 4 mana plays. Because we will have the first turn draw step. Playing against a black deck, and they've got their turn 1 Vault Scourge. No, Vault Scourge is my card. I want everybody to play Vault Scourge just because it can go in every deck. I mean, everybody should play Vault Scourge because it can go in every deck, but what are you gonna do? There's the Vorak. I do need to hit the land for that, but that'll guarantee the 4th mana, which is nice since we did top deck a 5 mana card as well now, so we're almost definitely going to need to use that for mana instead of proliferating. Especially when we have a second way to proliferate regardless. Defiant Salvager can get very big when they have cards that die and turn into another artifact or creature, like Monstrosity. They could immediately make that a 4/4 if they want. But there are some better cards to use, since Monstrosity is just already a good creature. It will cost them something to get those counters if they use Monstrosity to do it. There are some cards that are like when they enter the battlefield or die, you get some amount of value. Those are the cards that you really love with Defiant Salvager. Fortunately, we are missing our lands here, but that was a slight risk of the hand and a slight risk of going down to 15 lands. But again, as I said when we went down to 15 lands, we've got the Vorak to turn into our 4th land if we hit our 3rd. This is probably them trying to get Prototype killed in combat to then kill Vault Scourge with an actual removal spell. Clear our board here. It's a little annoying, but I do think I need to stop the damage regardless. We just really need to draw the land now. If it's not removal to kill Vault Scourge, then that would be wild. I think that trade is very heavily favored to me. Alright, it's no removal to kill Vault Scourge yet. Alright, we're pretty choked on mana here. We're going to be using all of our mana each turn to where we're not going to have the one to eat the food to Scavenger anytime soon. So I think I'm going to need to just eat this food to get some more breathing room. Maybe I won't. I mean, if they don't kill the Vault Scourge still, but this is like expecting them to sorcery speed kill Vault Scourge with something. I probably need to eat the food. Alright, last card in their hand is highlighted. They might be playing it, or they're just reading it. Looking at the artwork. They're not playing it. It's not removal for Vault Scourge. We still have so much impact here, I'm just going to cash in the life. I guess they'd be playing around the hexproof trick. Oh, sweet. We hit land 4 naturally, so I could play Bloomhulk instead for a bigger blocker. Is it better to play the bigger blocker and hit for 4 lifelink, or is it better to just lock in land 5 so you can Gearhulk next turn? Honestly, probably better to lock in land 5 because Gearhulk's such a big turn. And a 3/3 body is pretty much just as good as a 4/4 body here. Centurion's basically a 4/4. I'll lose my Bloomhulk if I block that. Defiant Salvager can become a 4-4 or 5-5, and Yeheni's small enough to get blocked by either. So I think the difference between a 3-3 and a 4-4 isn't that massive. Okay, so Annihilating Glare to kill the Vault Scourge, fair. That makes Yeheni a 3-3, which is pretty annoying. They can make Salvager a 3-3 sacking the food. And then Vorak doesn't have any particularly good blocks here. Just trades with Salvager, I guess. But that's it. That's everything they have. We can Wanderer Strike Yeheni, so we can just Gear Hulk and have two very big creatures and then proliferate with Bloom Hulk and Vorak later. Wanderer Strike a Yeheni later. Yeah, we're pretty happy here. I'll just split it down the middle here. I don't want to make one gigantic lightning rod for removal. But also the counters are better on the trampler. So we'll go even on it. Could have a fine attack with Vorak there, actually, because Yeheni's the only one that's instant speed. Oh no, Centurion's instant speed. So yeah, they'd block Vorak with a 4-4 and a 2-2 and lose the 2-2. So it wouldn't be a particularly great attack. Wouldn't be a terrible one. Okay, I've got no way to get more +1/+1 counters on this board, so be fine. Just strike Yeheni, proliferate and send in. They have a 4-4, a 3-2. Oh, I don't get to proliferate. They can sack Yeheni to Centurion. Dang. So they have a 4-4, 3-2, and a 2-2. They can double block Gear Hulk with any 2 and kill it, but then they're down to 1 creature. They could double block Vorak with 2-2 and 4-4 and only lose 1. Gear Hulk attack might be fine. We'd still have a good block to stop Ruin Raider from popping off. Trying to draw extra cards. I think Gear Hulk attack's fine. I guess with 2 more proliferators. With 2 more proliferators, it is less fine. Iron Apprentice. That's a really good card to sack to Centurion. Now they can put a +1/+1 counter somewhere at instant speed. The combat math in the kind of black sacrifice matchups gets really difficult. If they do it at sorcery speed, that'll make things a little more simple, but Centurion's still doing weird stuff. Okay, 7 mana, let's just double proliferate. And then just send in. Because I'll still have a 3-3 and a 4-4 on blocks, so. Math is for blockers. I'm done. I'm over it. Our attacks are good enough for me. Verder's Gear Hulk bomb rare does bomb rare things. Hopefully. Who would win? One Verder's Gear Hulk or one Yeheni and a Ruin Raider? The Gear Hulk. The Gear Hulk's a busted mythic. And those are just solid rares. Sure. I'll kill the permanent 4-4 instead of the temporary 4-4 here. That is a good block from our opponent, though. This is what I'm talking about with the annoying combat math stuff. Oop, I actually do have a good double block. Top deck of land is pretty bad for our opponent, and we are now 6-2. Heading into the final boss with this deck. Yet again, we make it all the way to the final battle. Can we yet again get another 7-win run? We'll find out soon enough as we head into the final game of Magic for tonight, win or lose. Here we are for the final battle, unfortunately on the draw with no 1 or 2 mana cards, but got a good amount of mana. We have excellent removal and we have solid 3-drop creatures. We can Bakery Raid for 1 mana to do something there. And we do have 7 1-drops in the deck, I think we established. 7 1-mana plays, 4 2-mana plays. So there's 11 draws that are really good that we could hit on our first 2 draw steps to have something better to do on the first couple turns. So that's 2 shots at a 25% chance. I think we take those. Actually, not even 25, it's 33%. It's 11 out of the 33 that are left. Because I didn't count Gaia's Gift as one of the 2 drops, since it's a trick for later in the game. When I counted the 4 2 drops. Alright, so far so bad. We draw into a 4 drop, but we've got one more draw step. See if we can do something early here. Uh-oh. If we don't hit one of the 11 2 or less mana cards and our opponent curves out 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, then that is the nightmare scenario. And we missed twice in a row. None of the 11 have showed up. Do they have the 3 drop? If they don't, they just beat us down with the food, so I think they do. Yep, opponent's gonna go 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop on the play. And that's where you really get punished for slower hands. Are we under enough life total pressure to just eat the food instead of saving it to spend on the Hollow Scavenger? Probably... yes. Okay, another Vorak. Play the Vorak, pick up a land. Thraben Inspector, excellent value play. Expanding their board state and their card advantage. And there's Epic Confrontation. Down to 12. There's a Vault Scourge, but I have to shoot myself in the face to play it. Do have the mana to Vault Scourge and Vorak, which is likely worth. Grab a tap land. Yikes. Alright, well. Kind of a predestined outcome here. Got a lot of really reasonable early draws we could hit. Didn't hit any of them, and our opponent hit probably every single one in their deck. Insane speed over there. I'll just play 1 blocker again and die. Yep, game's literally over no matter what I cast. Well, really disappointing ending, but what can you do? Sometimes you gotta be on the draw. Sometimes your opponent curves out like nobody's business. Would have loved to see another 7-win run with this deck. I think it was a really sweet one. The Vault Scourge combo absolutely popping off a lot of the time. Having the Gaia's Gifts to protect them was excellent. Captured by Legax continues to be completely filthy, both when we cast it and when our opponents cast it against us. Card is just insane and the biggest reason to be in green-white in the formats. I don't think there's any particularly big over and underperformers here. I think everything in the deck functioned how we wanted it to, with the way that we drafted the deck. In some of our earlier games, like I think in both of our first 2 losses, we hit a little too many lands. I don't remember the first loss anymore. The second loss was definitely to some Flood. So we might have wanted to be on the 15 land version from the get-go. So that would have been a potential thing to do differently deck building wise, but outside of that, I don't think there's a lot we could have done to change the outcomes of any of those games. Just so close to greatness with this deck. Still a very positive win rate. Still a lot of value, and still had a very fun time juicing up some massive Vault Scourges today. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you're interested in seeing some more like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.